Welcome to the Hybrid Athlete Dad podcast. I wanted to start this inaugural episode just going over the reasoning behind the purpose, giving you a little bit of my backstory, and what you can expect out of this podcast and out of the YouTube channel and our social media content going forward. First off, I like to use the word hybrid athlete. I'm not a professional by any means. I'm not going out there and winning races. I just happened to discover hybrid athlete training over the last year or so. And with that said, I noticed that a lot of folks in the hybrid athlete training space, they're training quite a bit. So a lot of times you're looking at double sessions a day, if not more than that. And the aspect that I found to be most difficult when it came to hybrid athlete training was managing the time with my family, managing the time as a father with a daughter is now 1 year old, and managing that time that, okay, during the day, I'm going to be working my your typical 9 to 5 job. And then when I'm done with that, now I want to train more, but now my daughter's coming home from daycare. And what's the strain that's going to be putting on my wife having to take care of our daughter? What's the impact it's going to have on me for me going out there and feeling guilty, know that I'm having to put in, or I'm willingly putting in this extra training time, but at the cost of me spending time with my daughter. And I find that I wanted to build a community of people that are also hybrid athletes, but at the same time, they're also fathers, mothers, folks that have children that are trying to manage their life, because there's a lot going on when I'm trying to train, and then when I'm also trying to work, and then I'm also trying to spend time with my family and trying to maximize all that. And that's really why I wanted to start the podcast, and to just give you some of my backstory on what I look like as a hybrid athlete. And again, I haven't ran Ironmans, I haven't done level 100, I haven't done some of these really ultra endurance races. For me, the story started really back in December of 23. Our daughter had been born of June of 23, and I'd been going to the gym for quite a while at that point, and I realized I had no idea about the nutrition aspect of it. I wasn't focusing on nutrition, that wasn't part of it. I wasn't doing any sort of cardio, I think, other than maybe walk on the treadmill twice a week for 20 minutes. And I was going to the gym 5 days a week. I had that discipline, I had that consistency built down, but at the same time, I wasn't building a ton of muscle. I honestly felt as though I was being a little out of shape. And honestly, I wanted to change myself. And I know a lot of folks make those New Year resolutions. And for me, that was going out there and hiring a nutritionist in December. And I really worked with her. And it was very good to work with her. We started to, the way that we presented it is, instead of having a diet, we were going to be making these lifestyle changes. And with these lifestyle changes, it came to eating a lot more fruits and vegetables. It came to tracking what I'm eating. It came to eating just foods that are going to be better for me. I mean, I really wasn't eating that many fruits and vegetables. And part of the plan with her was I found myself in a decent caloric deficit. I wouldn't say very big, but over the first 2 to 3 months, I lost 15 pounds or so. And that was fine, but I realized I didn't want to keep doing that. I didn't want to keep losing weight. And when I was talking to her about this, we said, okay, now let's up my protein intake, because that wasn't something that we had been focusing on at all. And initially, the goal was to have 100 grams of protein per day. And that was fine getting those 100 grams of protein. You know, it definitely took a little bit of fine tuning to get those 100 grams of protein in per day, but I got that down. And then we started to add in some cardio. And with that cardio, I was running, I think, 1 mile, 10 minutes on the treadmill at the gym twice a week. So now instead of doing the walking on the treadmill, now I'm doing the running on the treadmill. And I was doing that. And at the same time, I really started to get into the nutritional aspect of lifting. I started to realize, okay, if I have my fats, my carbs, and my proteins, if I have them in a strategic position, I know that's going to make me feel better at the gym. It's going to make me feel better overall. So I started to focus on the protein aspect of it. And I was just doing a ton of research on meal prep, what types of food to eat. Now all of a sudden I'm understanding the difference. I wouldn't say understanding the difference, but knowing that I'd rather have grass-fed beef and pasture raised chicken, for me, I know that there's benefits. I am not 100% exactly sure, other than the fact that it tastes better to me. It looks better when I get it versus me just buying it at the grocery store. So long story short, was doing that, started up my protein intake, started to really just notice the benefits at the gym. And that's when I ended up coming across when I was looking at these meal prepping videos on YouTube and just spending a decent amount of time after everyone had gone to sleep at night, like, how can I optimize my diet? Because I had never focused on my diet before, and now I want to know that I'm getting the adequate protein intake in every day. So long story short, and I was on YouTube, and I'm sure you've heard of him. If you haven't, I highly recommend checking him out. But I came across Nick Bear, and he owns Bear Performance Nutrition. And it was through him I was like, here's this guy. I haven't seen him. He's absolutely jacked, and he's running about 6 to 7 days per week, and then he's also lifting about, say, 5 to 6 days per week. And in my mind, I always thought that if I'm going out there and I am running on top of weightlifting, that's going to kill any of the gains that I make in the gym. But then I started to look at his content, and then all of a sudden I started to see other folks in what you would consider the hybrid athlete space, folks that are doing these endurance races, that are also weightlifting, that are in great shape, that are not losing all of their muscle mass, because I didn't want to go out and have a runner's body. I wanted to make sure that I had a body that looked like, yeah, I don't want the bodybuilder type or the powerlifter type. That's not what I was going for. But someone that just looks aesthetically pleasing, like that you can tell that they're fit. And I sort of liked that physique. I was like, okay, like, I'm running in the gym. Maybe I should start running outside. And that's honestly what I started doing. Like Monday, my schedule is Monday, Wednesday, Saturday. I would run outside, and it really wouldn't be that long of a run. I mean, we're talking, I'd be going a 1.5 mile loop around the neighborhood next to me, and that would be it. Maybe a 13-minute run, and then I would literally come home just exhausted and beat down, and that was after working out in the morning, and then continued to do that, and then over time, I got a little tired of running per se. I got a little bored of it. I would say not tired, but bored of it. So I wanted to try something else, and that's when a triathlon came to mind. I initially thought of going out there and doing an Ironman, and I was like, I don't know exactly what I'm going to be getting in for, so let me go out and do an Olympic triathlon. And I believe the Olympic was the one that I was looking at was 1.2 mile swim. It was a 25-mile bike ride and a 6-mile run. Where I believe on the 70.3, you're looking at a 1.2 mile swim. You're looking at a little over 50 something, 57 maybe miles on the bike, and then about a 13-mile run. So I was like, maybe I'll do half of a half Ironman of that race. I was like, that sounded good. Now I was doing the half of an Ironman. So I was looking at a 1.2 mile swim. I was looking at about a 25-mile bike ride and a 6-mile run. And for me, I was like, okay, like that definitely seems doable. And then when I went out and started training in the pool, because I just figured that was going to be the easiest. We have a pool, it's 25 meters, go around once, do a lap. It's going to be 50 meters, and then I could start biking. It was initially very, very hard to do. I mean, and I had been running up until that point 3 times a week, and I was building up the stamina. So when I came onto the running aspect of it, I was running 5 miles on Monday, 6 miles on Wednesday, 7 miles on Saturday, and I kept pretty consistent at that mileage. For me, mentally, I wanted to keep going up, but at the same time, I don't want to lose muscle mass by going like 10, 15 miles 3 times a week. That's not what I was looking for. I wasn't prepping for any race, so I was just doing the little bit, the 5, 6, 7 miles. So on average, about 18 miles per week. So I had that down. But when it came to biking, I just wasn't used to it, and it ended up being very hard for me to do. But I knew that I could do it. The impact that really had a hard time with was the swimming when it came to that aspect of it. Again, I knew how to swim, but swimming 200 meters was like absolutely crushing to me the first week or so. And then I got on a 6-week training plan to be able to swim a mile. Long story short, just to make sure I could complete the race, I ended up doing an even shorter one. It was a half-mile swim, a 6 mile bike ride, or 12 mile bike ride, I believe. Yeah, 12 mile bike ride. It was a half-mile swim, 12 mile bike ride, and a 3 mile run, so about a 5K. And that was what you consider your sprint triathlon. And I had given myself about 4 to 5 weeks to train for that. I started at the end of May, and the race was going to be at the end of June. And I was training 7 days a week. I was training, and I was still going to the gym amongst all this training. So I was strength training Monday through Friday, and then after work, Monday, obviously through Friday, I was doing the swimming. I was doing the biking. On Fridays, I'd go on an extra long bike, an extra long swim. Obviously Saturday running, and then Sunday, I would again do the biking and the swimming, and then just kept up a cycle like that. And I found that that just put a lot of pressure on us as a family because I was spending so much time. Because initially, I I get up early in the morning because I want to get up before our daughter gets up. So our gym opens up that I go to. It's about 10 minutes away. It opens up at 5:30 in the morning. So I'm getting up at 4:50 so that way I can get up. I can have a little bit to eat, and then I can hop out the door by 5:20, get to the gym for 5:30. The goal is to work out to about 6:50 or so, depending on how long the workout takes. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes it's longer, because our daughter sleeps till about 7. Well, then she started sleeping till about 6:15, 6:30. She's had a little bit of a sleep regression where now she's getting up early in the morning, and then I feel bad because now my wife is getting up, and my wife is getting up at the same time I was to start working her job. Not that she had to, but just so that way we know that we're gonna have to spend an hour, hour and a half with our daughter before we drop her off at daycare for the day. So now my wife has this responsibility while I'm working out, and then my wife gets done with work. She picks our daughter up for daycare, and then I'm doing another training session, and then again I just feel guilty on it. And there was just a lot going on. And I mean, this was just a sprint triathlon. This wasn't training for a 100 mile race. This wasn't training for a half Ironman, let alone a full Ironman. And when I was looking online and trying to find other people that were going through this similar experience, I didn't find too many people that were this hybrid athlete that also had kids. And that's why I was like, okay, I want to go out there and I want to start a podcast talking to other dads that are hybrid training, how they split up their sessions, and then also at the same time manage their family time without necessarily feeling that guilt. Because like, my daughter's home, I just want to spend time with her, and now I'm going on an hour bike ride, and then maybe I have a 45-minute swim workout after that. It's a lot of time that I'm spending away from her, and that's why I wanted to create this podcast to spread light on it, share my tips, my expertise on what I've been doing as a hybrid athlete. And again, I use that sort of vague. I'm not someone that's going out there and winning the races, hopefully at some point, but I'm someone that is doing that strength training 5 days a week, and then also mixing in the running and the swimming and the biking and just that whole aspect of just really being the hybrid athlete, trying to get the nutrition dialed in, trying to get the physical fitness dialed in. And that's really why I wanted to start this podcast, is just to go over like what it means to me for me to be a hybrid athlete as a dad, and the experiences that I have. The goal of this podcast is to share with you what's going on in my life, what I'm experiencing, what I've been noticing, what's been working for me, what hasn't been working for me, so that if you're a dad out there or a mom as well, and you want to be a hybrid athlete and it's already a ton of time, like how can you manage that while also holding down a job and then also having children? And obviously, I only have one daughter right now, so if you have multiple kids, I would imagine that's even harder. And that's really what I want to try to figure out through this podcast. And I want to bring on guests, whether they are dad, whether they are mother, that have kids, and like how do you manage the time on top of having a job? Because unless you're the best of the best, it's going to be notoriously difficult for you to go out there and do all this exercising or do this hybrid athlete training without having a job, unless you're a coach or something like that, something that you're already in the industry and it pays. So that's really what I'm looking to get out of this podcast. And what I want to share with everyone is just my experiences of trying to be a hybrid athlete while at the same time being a dad and sharing the ups and downs and everything that comes with it. So what I would recommend that you do is tune into this podcast every single week. Sometimes it's going to be solo episodes of myself just going over what I've been experiencing as a hybrid athlete dad. And then sometimes I might bring on the occasional guest and just interviewing them on their experience, how they navigated it, how they got started as a hybrid athlete, and how it's changed their life. So that's my goal going forward, is that through this podcast, that not only that you can be the best hybrid athlete, but that you can also be the best dad that you can be.